All right. Good evening. It is December 17th, and this is the work session meeting. Call it to order. Ms. Strickland, would you like to lead us in pledge and invocation?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we just thank you for another day to wake up and worship you. Lord, thank you for each and every person in this room today and watching online. As we go into the holiday season, we just pray for extra protection over our first responders and all of our citizens who are going to be traveling in and out of town. Lord, give us the wisdom and discernment as we go into this meeting. And we thank you and give you all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, we all have the agenda before us. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right, old business. Elizabeth, we have the purchasing policy again. You wouldn't mind talking to us about that one?
Good evening, Board. Before you is a revised draft of the purchasing policy along with the previous policy from 2016. I want to make clear that the Board sets the budget and appropriations for the town. Additionally, all transactions must be pre-audited in accordance with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. This means that no contract or transaction can be entered into without funds already being allocated by the Board. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So previously you had provided the new policy at our meeting on the 3rd. We did need a little more time to, I think, review and ask questions, and we did ask for a copy of what was being used currently, just to see how they differ. I understand abiding by the state statute is where a majority of the figures come from, if that's correct.
That's correct.
I think there was some want from the board to be able to discuss it amongst ourselves.
Sure.
Prior to making any decision.
The template for this, I mean, we didn't write this whole thing from scratch, right? So where did we?
No, I borrowed this from Lillington.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head any changes that we made from Lillington's version materially?
So if you'll notice on page 5, 2 of the blocks, informal bid contract and informal construction, it says if in the budget ordinance. So that was added from last time and was not in Lillington's policy. Additionally, they have a different threshold for their purchase orders. So
Okay.
that number was changed.
And when you say if in the budget ordinance, that means something that we would have predetermined throughout our budget process
So
about priorities and things we wanted to accomplish.
That's correct. So for instance, this year we spoke about a special project for the sidewalk on Campbell Street. So in the budget ordinance, we put $600,000 in there. Y'all approved the whole budget ordinance. You approved by department, not by line item. Another instance would be the excavator that you approved for Public Works and Water and Sewer Fund.
So the wording in this allows you to follow through on those purchases without having to come back to us again to make those
Yes,
items that we've already approved in the budget.
correct. If the board wishes to have every contract come before them at any threshold, then staff can certainly do that. With the number of transactions that we process, it will likely slow things down. But the board can set any threshold it wants as long as it's not in violation of the general statute.
If you'd like to.
Sure. Okay, are we starting on page 3? So the informal bid contract, purchase of apparatus, supplies, materials, or equipment costing more than 30 but less than 90, you want to change that.
Formal purchase contract over 90, and when you put in the budget ordinance, that kind of gives her, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm just going to say this because I'm blunt. I just think that gives you more authority and, I might not use the right words, but I just think that we need to be the ones that oversee all the contracts. Because we're the ones that really have to oversee all this stuff. And I don't feel like, just 90,000 is a lot. The old policy, or the one that was done back in 2016, the numbers were very small.
Remember what the numbers were?
I actually reached out to some of the commissioners and the old town manager, and he thought it was 5 or 10,000. It was nothing over 30. But that's a ballpark that I'd like to, not necessarily, because we've grown.
Definitely.
I'm not saying setting like 5 to 10,000, but in order for me to be able to say yes to this, I think we need to get 30. Anything over 30 people come to this, or anything really, I would be more comfortable anything over 15 or 20. Now, I'm not saying that they have major breaks,
Right.
or we have something with, sewer, pump station or whatever, that we can't give her a little bit more leeway, because, that's something that has to be addressed immediately.
Right. And that,
So
Exactly.
let me give you a for instance, and then I just need your guidance. So you adopt a project ordinance, let's say for mitigation measure number 3, the Broad Street Culvert project. So the total budget of that is, I want to say 1.2, but I don't have that number fresh in my head. So you want any time that we do anything with that project to come before you, including
I would feel better sincerely again.
including land acquisition, even though it's already budgeted in the line item. I'm not sure if that's allowed by the general statute because it's a departmental budget, not a line item budget.
Then I think we need to, because we answer to the decision. And I'm sorry, that's my name, I'm sorry.
If you have budgeted a certain amount for departments for discretionary spending, then they probably have that authority under your budget.
So if the property acquisition is $10,000 and we have to acquire easements, which we do, and we don't spend more than $10,000, then we're not bringing it back to you.
That's fine.
Okay?
It's just a matter of figuring out what that number
Exactly.
is, so we don't grind everything to a halt. Because we did just approve an abbreviated schedule for next year too. And
Exactly.
we can have special called meetings too, but
Right,
We
and
need
we've
to-
had that in the past.
we need to find that number where,
And I want to point out a few things that I've changed since I've become finance director. Hans, our previous finance director, believed in using the P card, and I will tell you that he had some employees' threshold set at $70,000.
ooh,
And
If you,
we were never, and I can speak on this, I think, we were never informed about that. That's one of the reasons why, when we were gonna get to the P card, I was gonna bring something up about that.
and
Thank
so
you for
the
doing that.
threshold is $5,000 for anyone that has a P card.
Yeah, that's perfect, that's perfect.
The purchase order threshold was $5,000 when I got here, and I lowered it to $2,500.
Was
So,
that your mark through on the 2016? Because the 20s, okay.
I have
that
no
was already-
idea. That is what was given to
Right.
me. I came in July 23. That's
It was surprising that that's been kind of, maybe for a reason, having its vagueness. I don't know that it's necessarily beneficial to the town.
it doesn't really give me any guidance
Right, right.
to follow.
And I
so-
appreciate that the new one is very thorough in every facet of it. Finding the sweet spot in terms of where the spending. Can you give me an example of how this would change what you're doing right now? How will this affect you negatively or positively, the new policy, as far as what you're doing right now? Is there an example?
Is there an example of how this policy would change what we're doing now?
Would it make it easier for you to do, or
Well,
is it more
so-
rigorous?
Okay, I brought the mold remediation to you. Number one, because we needed additional money. So the board always has authority over budget amendments. Number two, it wasn't clear to me what the threshold is, so I'm trying to seek clarification. So if you approve this up to $90,000, then I wouldn't have had to bring you the contract, I just would have had to ask for the budget amendment.
All right, and so if we pick a number and in practice, we find that we might need to move that number, I mean, it's not that difficult, right? We can
That's right.
put it on the agenda and adjust
Mm-hmm.
this if we see.
Yep.
I wonder if, I'm jumping ahead in this chart to where we hit, so the top three Board of Commissioners,
Mm-hmm.
informal bid contract, if we were okay with a number of 30,000, then
Mm-hmm.
instead of changing numbers around, we could turn informal bid contract into Board of Commissioners instead of town manager.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do the next line, informal construction, repair, design less than 90. If we still feel like we would rather that be 30, do we just change that to Board of Commissioners, or do we leave that town manager and change that number to 30? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I'm just trying to find the easiest way to amend this.
What happens?
Then which one? The next one?
Well, the two biggest hangups are informal bid contract and
Mhm.
informal construction repair.
And those numbers are also what Lillington is using?
It is from the general statutes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
set by
It's a
state
state
law.
requirement.
Okay.
So what we could do is go less than, we can't go
We
above
just-
because
that's
of
right.
state mandate.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not for long.
They're not. They have fewer
Yeah.
citizens and their budget is slightly less than ours and they have fewer utility customers. That's fine, Ms. LaRue.
So we could change informal bid contract if we were okay with the number 30,000, just to Board of Commissioners. The next one,
Oh.
I don't know what's easier to
What was
edit.
in the 2016 policy, what was the number that made you think, oh, I probably am going to take this to the board?
The 2016 policy makes no sense to me and
Right.
provides no guidance
So
to
what
me.
number were you using in your own internal clock to say, I think this should go to the board versus not?
Anything less than, or anything over 30.
So 30
Mhm.
was what you were.
So you could just change it to, under approval authority, both the informal bid contract and informal construction repair, you can change that to Board of Commissioners.
Is that essentially what was already happening?
Yes.
And then what's the next line? Exemption from QBS procedure under 50, professional
That's
services.
qualified base selection. That is, for instance, the design bid, we don't
Mhm.
choose someone based on price, we choose someone based on qualifications.
Right.
I don't know that we will encounter that scenario, so we could strike it completely from the policy.
I have it in there, need it later and not have it. I think at this point, trying to all encompass it versus.
Yeah, if it's in here, it's better to have the guideline set, but do we want to change that 50,000 number to something else?
To me, 50 is more comfortable than 90, and less restrictive than 30. That's kind of where I land with it. I'm not trying to make anything more difficult than it already is. But also understanding we have to be accountable for it
Mhm.
on the other side.
Well, then instead of figuring out how to amend this, we should pick the number first that we're all comfortable with, and
I
then
agree.
figure out how to amendments. So, Jim, do you have a suggestion? We'll just go down the line.
I'm comfortable with 30.
Well, you have a number in mind?
50, I'm going with the majority.
Right, of course. No, we're just trying to find a number to start with. 30. Ashley?
I think I'm comfortable with 50.
Okay. Well, we can hash back and forth between 30 or 50. We could pick 40 or. I think that's fine.
happy.
And look, if we find out that way too much stuff is coming across our desk that we feel like we didn't need to, then we could come back and amend. All right. So, Dan, do you need guidance from us specifically on how to modify this, or is that enough?
Yes,
On
Page
page
5,
five.
yeah.
from 30 to 90 to 40, and then less than 90 to 40.
Mhm.
Okay.
So does that,
And do we want to change the QBS one to 40?
Keep it across the board.
Okay.
so does that mean that the top boxes will change?
Well, they're Board of Commissioners anyway,
Right.
so I don't know.
So those
Dan,
can't change.
Well, they
Those-
can't change, right, so
That's general statute.
the difference between the 90 to 40 though,
Mhm.
is that needed a box on the table?
I think if you take informal bid contract and you strike out 30 but less than 90 and you put anything costing more than $40,000
You're
is
just
the
adding it.
town manager or designee.
We can make it more strict, right? So we could change formal purchase contract instead of 90, make it 40.
Well, that's what I'm questioning. is
Right.
What's that gap between?
Right. So we could do that, and then in the fourth box, turn 90 to 40, and then we've covered all the bases without going over state statute.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And then everything from there down, you said you had something about POs, or that was P cards? All right, anything for POs or,
5,000. I changed the PO threshold from 5,000 to 2,500. I'm sorry. The P card threshold is 5,000. We actually do not have petty cash at the moment, but we are hoping to get that if somebody needs to go buy nice stamps for y'all are having an event. They fill out the form, they take, I don't know how much stamps are, we'll say $15. They write it down, they bring the receipt back and the change. Yeah.
higher up on the chart here? Yeah.
Well, so that is more restrictive than
not.
Lillington's.
Yeah. That's saying if it's not already
If
in the
it's
budget
not in the
ordinance,
budget, then
then
I
it comes
can't
to us
approve it.
automatically. Yeah.
Right.
All right, and then informal construction, repair, design, we would change that number to 40,000.
Yes.
Okay. Any more thoughts on the table? If not, we can move down into all of the policy. If anybody had any questions or concerns about those, I'm going to take some quick notes of my own on what we talked about here.
These are things that by state statute don't have to go through purchasing, and I'll explain to you why. You all budget the salaries. So why would you have to do a purchase order for salaries? No town does that. Or, for instance, you approve our Blue Cross and Blue Shield health insurance, that's a $30,000 payment every month. These are all things that are not required to go through the purchase order procedure. We do not have a tracking form. We can create a tracking form. The depot, someone registers their child for sports. So if they're in town, that's 30, and out of town is 60. So maybe something comes up, they make the middle school team, and they need a refund.
On the record.
All right, anybody else? With any of the other content here, policy, obviously we'll change the numbers that are written out in more detail in the
Correct. I'll
policy
have
to
to
match.
go and edit what you have told me.
Okay.
Well, we need to wait before we can vote on it.
If I don't think so. I think you can say as amended to $40,000.
It's just really it's an internal policy of the board. So it's just what y'all want.
All right. Let me get back.
Well, that already has to come to the board
Yeah, that
for
already-
approval, so I don't,
Yeah,
Could
the number
you-
seems irrelevant because it says Board of Commission, but yes, construction and repair.
In section 2, the competitive bids and proposals, it gets a little more into detail about,
can you tell me the page number? I'm sorry.
13 is where it starts. Advertising,
Mhm.
public advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through all the bid exemptions, which I thought was helpful. But the last part of that, 7, purchase of supplies, materials, and equipment, the less than 30 threshold. The town still has a policy that requires one written quote for purchases up to 15,000, and for over 15, have 2 written quotes.
Mm-hmm.
It says construction and repair contracts under 30,000 should follow the town policy. 1 quote for 24 to 15,000, 2 quotes for 15,000 to 30. I mean, yeah.
Are you on A or?
Yeah, I was just in A, yes.
Okay.
Section 2, verse 8, no. I'm sorry. Page 16.
And so that goes into B,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to change to anything over 40,000, which would require 3 quotes. Is
Mhm.
that your question?
No, just a statement. I just was bringing it up that it had been acknowledged.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is just policy on how many prices we have to get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if any of you feel like we need to change those numbers. I mean, it's state driven.
No, yeah, just really highlighting the fact that we're not just getting one contract for, you know, $200,000 worth of work, or even $30,000 worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
It's very thorough. I appreciate your attention to policy and wanting to have something to back up the decisions that are made and the way things are done. So, thank you for, you know,
You're welcome.
bringing this to our attention. 2016 is a long time ago.
Yeah, it's always good to have policy to look back at. So anytime we find something, anytime we find a hole, I'm happy to create policy to fill it up so there's no gray area. I
Well,
don't.
so this has to do with spending money.
That's what I
and
was-
We're not
that's what I was gonna
spending
say.
our money.
So this might not be the policy to cover,
Right.
it, but we could. Right, we could do that. I think just because this is purchasing, it wouldn't apply to this one,
Right.
but we can make another one.
Is the threshold going to be 30,000? Or is the threshold?
Well, so that would be a separate one. So
I understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is, okay, so let's say, yeah,
well, this. It's hard to put a dollar amount on it because we're talking about things that the town doesn't have to pay for. So we might have to put this on another agenda, the right way to word that one. Because the dollar amounts won't serve our purpose. So we just have to figure out how to word that. Yeah. But I think, she's already making some effort. We saw the library doors and stuff like that come before us in the last meeting. So, yeah, maybe we could find something that exists already. We could tweak to suit us, but we'll address that one on another one. All right, it's a long policy. It's a lot of pages,
I'm gonna go with 40.
which is good. Don't get me wrong. Better to have it here to refer to than the 2-page one we had before.
Shout out, Town of Wellington.
I wonder who they got it from.
Is everybody? Well,
Probably
Thanks,
was
Rachel.
so.
very
Fix it.
thorough.
Yeah.
So.
All right, if we feel good, then Dan, help us to formulate a motion to describe these changes that will allow us to make a motion on. Well, I wrote down 4, which is basically we're changing the threshold to 40,000, but there were. I think we could.
Okay, so approval authority, which is item B on page 5. Informal bid contract is being changed to anything costing more than $40,000 will come to the Board of Commissioners. In the next block, informal construction, repair, and design contracts costing more than $40,000 will come to the Board of Commissioners. An exemption from the qualified base selection procedure, anything over $40,000 will come to the Board of Commissioners. Is that it?
So my notes were formal purchase contract changed to 40. Informal bid contract changed 90 to 40, so it says 30, but less than 40. Informal construction, repair, and design contracts less than changed to 40. And the QBS procedure changed 50 to 40. Those were the notes I took. I think covers every gap in the range there. I'll entertain a motion if you guys are comfortable with it. Can we just make a motion to say with those amendments, or you need us to spell out?
Yeah.
Okay. The amendments are on the record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we need to add a travel tracking form.
Okay.
Hotel and travel.
It's just something that we have been asked to create to. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay over there.
Everyone ready? Everyone good? I make a motion that we adopt the Town of Angier's purchasing policy with the amendments noted.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right. New business. Number 1. Jeff is here tonight to speak to us about a lease agreement for our new code enforcement employee.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the board. A few meetings ago, you all decided with staff to not hire a planner, but to hire a second code enforcement officer. We've been successful in hiring someone, so that person will be starting in January, and we will need a vehicle for that person to do their duties. So we have secured a lease for you all to consider. It's for a small pickup truck, a Ford Maverick. That's what we believe, staff believes this person will need to do their job. And we're asking you all to consider that lease and give staff the authority to execute the lease.
All right, and we don't have to move any money around to do this.
Right. I think earlier in the fall, we did a budget amendment to move some money in the planning and inspection budget.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Any discussion?
How long would the lease be for?
They're for 4 years. And you all some time ago approved our agreement with Enterprise that we rotate
Right.
the cars. Once they reach a certain point, they buy them back from us, and then we trade in. And you don't normally see these because they are part of the budget ordinance, and you previously approved your agreement with them maybe in 2021.
I don't know why I'm having a hard time Ford Maverick.
They're like the Ranger.
Well,
It's
and
a-
this is on the lot, so we can get it. Otherwise, like, if we were going to get another truck, we would have to wait, and then we would have to pay this employee mileage. So,
The wait time on my latest vehicle, the inspector, it was 6 months. And
Yeah.
so we tasked our folks at Enterprise to find us something that was on the lot that we could get pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And they were able to find a Ford Maverick, which will fit this person's
Yeah.
duties. Mostly on the street, picking up signs, things like that.
Yeah.
Doing inspections and investigations from
Mhm.
street, or not going on job sites or construction sites. So I think this will fit well with this role.
Pretty much the smallest truck
It is.
you could get.
That's
I
right.
say truck because it has an open back part
That's right.
that they could throw signs in.
Yeah. Maybe it would have been the old El Camino or something in the past.
That's right. But it's fuel efficient, I'm sure, which is great for us.
It is. It is.
I make a motion to authorize staff to execute lease for a new vehicle for the planning and inspection department.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's approved. Thank you, Jeff.
Board.
Thank you.
All right, Elizabeth, we have you for budget amendment number 7.
Thank you, Board. This is to recognize additional revenue that the town has collected over and beyond the budgeted amount. The line items considered are water activation fees, which we have collected $26,667 more revenue than budgeted, and we've collected $56,428 more than budgeted in the water meter sales. We are seeking to move this to the expenditure line to purchase more meters. Several of our developments along 55 are ready to have meters set, and it is quite a few meters that need to be ordered.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this one?
I anticipate this will be before you on January 7th because it's $42,000 for a pallet of meters. So if the developers are upset, then y'all can let them know.
All righty. If
Wouldn't it have been
everyone's,
before though, because it was more than 30 and 30 was the threshold you were using previously?
It's not a contract, and it's materials and supplies, so we'll just bring
That's why I
everything
asked
to
for
y'all.
an example.
that's all right. It'll be brought to us if it's brought to us, and if we need to move the number around, we can move the number around.
I make a motion to approve budget amendment number 7 as presented.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That's unanimous. That is all we have on our agenda tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned.